But I just never was that agriculturally oriented at the time. But then later on, when it came down here, and he sold us the ranch. Of course, I'd come from New Mexico where brush wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And grass wasn't a problem except when it didn't rain. And you know, Scott, I was out scouting one day horseback, and thought came to me out of the blue, and I feel like the Lord gave it to me. He said, "You're a grass farmer. You're not a cattleman. You're a grass farmer. If you don't have any grass, you don't need any cattle." And so at that moment, I became a conservationist. Mm-hmm. Well, I wasn't trained in that at all, so I began to buy all the books that I could about conservation, which were very few. And I got a hold of a book, and I can't think of the title now, but I remember his name. He was an oil man. His name was Pettit, and he bought a place down around Stephenville. And it was old, wore-out soil. The creek ran clear through it, it was dry and covered with brush. And he had cleared the brush off of that ranch and built stock ponds and one thing and another. And in about 10 years, he had that creek running again plumb through the ranch. And that impressed me because we're on the headwaters of the Colorado River out here. Mm-hmm. And we have Tobacco Creek, Colorado River. Well, Tobacco Creek and what they call Colorado River come together down below our house, and that's when it really becomes Colorado River. But we had Tobacco Creek and Colorado River, Glen Creek and Wolf Creek and Rattlesnake Creek that all come through the ranch there, which made it desirable back then because they didn't have windmill. We don't have windmill on the ranch today because we don't really have any underground water. But we had live water in all those creeks, and today we have live water in all those creeks. We still have a lot of brush. I've gotten rid of a lot of it, but I never will get rid of all of it. But yeah. At that time, I went into a 10-year conservation plan with the Conservation Service over at Snyder, and we worked up a 10-year plan. When I got through with that plan, I went into another 10-year plan, and then after that, I've just kept it up through the years, and we had a ranch up in New Mexico. The Clayton family did up north of Fort Sumner, and in 1979 we got a chance to buy one that joined us here in Borden County. So we found a man to buy the one in Borden County, and then we traded to New Mexico, and this one hadn't had anything done to it conservation wise. So for about 15 years, I spent all the money that I would spend on conservation on this place. One day I was riding around on the mule shoe, and I thought, well, hell, I'm almost back where I was when I started. I let it go for 15 years, and here it came again. Yeah. So I had to become, I had to teach. I was self-taught, for that matter. And fact of the matter, I've given years ago now, but I've given white paper talks up at Tech and up at A&M about conservation, but that's just self-taught. Then I didn't, and back then you couldn't find a range manager. They didn't. There weren't any of them to my knowledge. Yeah. There were people that worked for Soil Conservation Service, but I think Dub Waldrop was the first one I ever knew, and he was the Swensons, and I guess it was the Swensons had given 10 sections to the state, or well, to Texas A&M, I guess, for an experimental ranch up by Throckmorton. Yeah. And Dub was teaching at A&M, and they sent him up there to run it, and that was his specialty, range management. And later on, after his wife died, he went to work for Frank Chappell with the Spades, and was with them until he died. Yeah. And but I just to answer your question, I never did go to an ag school.
Wow. Well, sounds like you did, just not.
Well,